changes the majority that came from the 8.9. We saw that Johnny still showed his priority towards Loki, though he has been showing flexibility with some of the other gods. Even Erlong Shen is one up in his wheelhouse, so maybe we'll see a little bit of fighting over that more auto attack centric warrior. And really, when it comes to Johnny, outside of the Loki, it feels like the auto attack junglers has kind of more so been his namesake since he's come up in the SPL. Even at his time back in the SCC, it was Kali, Bakasura, Ao Kuang. Like, those were the three that you banned away against Johnny no matter what. We haven't really gotten to see much of any of those pretty much for the entirety of the year. We got to see a little bit of a resurgence of Kali at the start of Phase 2, but outside of that, not much to be spoken for. So the first bans come out, Hel and Ul, the first gods taken out immediately by the Valkyries, and then a Loki Geb response from the Titans.
Yeah, I think Johnny actually said when he shifted up towards the SPL that he likes the auto attack style junglers, the Bakasuras of the world, the Arachnes, things along those lines, but he doesn't think they're necessarily very good at a high-tier competitive level, and since then has kind of allowed those picks to fall by the wayside. Occasionally we've seen him go towards the Kali, as you said a little bit earlier, but outside of that, generally has really been a little bit more so towards the Erlang Shen. The Loki has been great for this guy in the past, so immediately the Tartarus Titans going to go ahead and target that one out. And these bans are something that we've become very familiar with here in the SPL. Odin going to round out the bans for the Valkyries, and the Tartarus Titans remove Artio with their very last. And the Valkyries now, in first pick position, have their options ahead of them. Could be a Yamoja for support. Tiamat is out there if you don't want Paul piloting that pick. That could be a good place to pick it up for yourselves. So we'll see where the Valkyries lie their priorities. But with so much still available, this could be something a little bit off the beaten path. But instead it is Khepri. It is a support pick, not Yamoja, but still an incredibly strong one. Scarab's Blessing is just a straight-up annoying tool that you have to deal with.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things to deal with in the game because you thought you had just killed a god, and then Scarab's Blessing comes through, and now you gotta either try and hunt him down or you just gotta let him go. You know, one of those last little things. But with that taken, that leaves the Yamoja available for the Titans, and then a set immediately after. You kind of alluded maybe Cyclone, maybe Layers. You never know where this one's going to go, and that's kind of the interesting thing with, I would probably say, exclusively the Titans. You see set on almost any other composition, any other team, you know that one's going to jungle, so we'll keep our eyes peeled where this set falls into place. But that does leave Tiamat back open again. I thought this was going to be Yamoja Tiamat instantly, but instead the Valkyries now have the option to pick that Tiamat if they want to go with it, but they're not going to at all. Instead, it'll be a Terra and a Heimdall to round things out, which means we will be seeing the Terra go back towards Ducky over in solo lane.
That's a scary front line that the Valkyries have got for themselves, but now we get a look at whether or not Paul lied to you on the desk a little bit earlier on. If the Titans take either Raijin or Tiamat here, and I believe they should, they can ban out the other one and make the Valkyries fall down exactly one tier, at least inside of that mid-selection. So we'll see whether or not they decide to go that path, and if they do so, which one they'll go for, and they do not. Soul is going to be the pickup, and now the Titans, again, do have the opportunity to either ban Tiamat or ban Raijin if they're worried about the Valks taking it for themselves. And just so we're all clear, Paul did say verbatim, this is a direct quote, Raijin and Tiamat are the best mid laners in the game right now. Both were available, and both were ignored.
Maybe he was doing that just to kind of bait everybody, like,
mix-up.
It's like, hey, yeah, these are the best mages. Guys, don't pick these mages. They're absolutely bad. But, hey, they're really good, and we make them look really good. But maybe they aren't all that. No, I can't say that. I've seen 3 Tiamat quadra kills in the last 2 days of competitive play that I've watched at all levels of play. So, yeah, maybe Tiamat is kind of good. Maybe Raijin is also kind of good. But we won't be seeing either of them so far. Still has potential if they want to throw this soul over towards Cyclone and throw the set in the jungle. I'm not going to hold my breath. We won't see Raijin. He'll be banned away by the Titans. The Valkyries still need to find their mid laner. They ban away Nike, who we've been seeing a decent amount here in the SPL. We've been seeing a ton of it in the NASCC. Seems to still have a ton of value towards this solo lane pick.
Yeah, it could go into the soul lane, also has flex potential into the jungle, so maybe the Valkyries keeping their eyes that way as well. Anything that has cleave auto attacks is just going to utilize mannequins so incredibly well and is going to work out inside of the jungle for the most part, so Nike being removed from the table makes sense to me. Cerberus as well has been a very dominant force inside of the SPL, so now with all the bans rounded out, we still do have Tiamat out there and available. So we'll see if the Valkyries decide to go that path. Zeros has not had a ton of success on this pick in the past, so maybe something he's not really willing to go towards here, and the Titans wouldn't call that bluff, as Cthulhu is the hover. That's a lot of frontline, that's a lot of CC, it's decent sustain for your team, actually has very large AoE healing, and when you've already got self-sustain from Soul and team-wide healing from Yemoja, that kind of adds up in such a way that if the Titans are allowed to reset inside of these late-game team fights, be it around Gold Fury or Fire Giant, they're probably going to come out ahead in those fights just because they have that amount of healing on their side.
And then, as you highlight there, when you couple it with the healing that Yemoja has, his self-sustain, Soul self-sustain, this is going to be a tough god to chop down. Once he goes up into the Descent of Madness, he becomes a very tanky god, a ton of HP that this Heimdall is going to have to be the primary one to try and chop through. For the jungle selection out of the Valhalla Valkyries, they will go with the Erlong. They were having a little bit of an extra option maybe to look towards, and instead it will be Neith. So we're not going to see Tiamat at all. No pick, no ban. Maybe she's not all that great. Or maybe the Valhalla Valkyries are just going over towards some more of that comfort selection for themselves. Johnny's been doing really well with this Erlong the last few games that he's been able to pilot it, and Neith has been a widely successful god for Zeros out of that mid lane, especially with some of the buffs that we've had. And yeah, Neith coming to the mid, not super surprising. Susano to round out the draft for the Titans. Well, that does mean that this set is going to be going over to Cyclone Spin.
Last year.
Yeah, true.
But with the Soul there, of course, they're going to be swapping it. The thing that actually is the most interesting to me, Aggro, and this is something we talked a little bit about last week, but we didn't get to see, it's this Neith mid.
Yeah.
Because admittedly, as much as we like to talk about the assassins, Ullers in that conversation, Neith loves all of the Mace Tree changes.
She does, and I think Neith is actually
my
a good.
God.
Paul is dead to
God.
Zeros?
Zeros just does it to him exactly the way you need to. A great Spirit Arrow for the root, but just good autos. I mean, that was way more damage than I anticipated.
He just didn't miss. It's as simple as that. If you don't miss, you're going to be in a good spot. I agree, man. I think Neith is underrated. Disappointing for the Valkyries. They're not able to find it. But you've got a big power spike in mid now with this 20% CDR. Zero should be very willing to just let it fly. Wherever they feel like they can get a kill, send it, because you've got 20% CDR to kick off the game, basically.
Johnny had made a rotation over to the duo lane, was sitting right on top of a Vision Shard ward from Cyclone Spin, though. So that one gets called off pretty fast. Layers is going deep, stealing away some experience camps, but this is going to be the engage. Johnny is only going to be able to get the taunt onto Layers, but there's the ult from Zeros, and that's the setup you need. A little bit of extra damage and a stun on top gets them their second kill and forces Benji to fall back.
Just so greedy for Layers to go for the minis after the back harpies. Take the backs, you got those. Feels pretty good, but you have to respect it, especially because he doesn't have beads. That World Weaver is going to cause him serious problems. Even if he would have ran, he probably died.
The laning phase was just fine for him, and he's got the pressure. They each have a little bit of experience now over Raffer and staying tied with Emilito. Almost getting aggressive here as well. At least looking at the purple buff, not going to be able to steal it away. He recognizes that Cyclone has no mana, sends him through the realms, and is going to be waiting for him to come landing. Layers is just off the side in the jungle, but there's going to be the River's Rebuke. The walls come up. The autos are good, but not good enough just yet. The turnaround is looking a little bit better. Emilito's just trying to stay alive. He does not do so. Aurora finds the retaliation kill, the taunt, but the Riptide saves Aurora's life. He gets out of there, stays alive, and now Raffer's on the chopping block next. Layers has no mana. Paul's low. Cyclone has nothing to work with, but that's not going to stop him from chasing down this Khepri. One more hit will do it, and Paul's able to pick that up. A nice 3-kill swing for the Titans.
Absolute disaster there for the Valkyries. I mean, it looked like it was going to be a solid play, but Zeros got picked off on the rotation. Looked like he got ulted by Layers and by Paul and just killed instantly. I don't know if it was down or if he had used it already. Something went wrong there in that rotation, and this is the nightmare scenario for Neith. All the Neith haters out there, this is the clip they show you where, oh yeah, my god's so good, I've got a global stun, and then I just get absolutely slammed as soon as I look down the scope.
To follow up with, that's just too good. And well, yeah, unfortunately, those left side mid harpies are going to cause you a little bit of trouble. Now it's going to be the turnaround, though. Raffer, Ducky looking to get aggressive. Johnny's in the neighborhood as well as they try to isolate Aurora, Benji, and Layers. Maybe not the easiest targets to take down. Zeros is going to join the fray, so it's a 4v3 with Paul lagging slightly behind. Ducky looking to get a little aggressive. The ult is thrown out. Doesn't seem to be finding him much. Aurora's finally getting a little low. Johnny's not able to find the final hits, and now it's Layers who's going to be taking the brunt of the damage, but it's the Sano ult instead that finds the turnaround. The Valkyries having to pull back from their aggressive play, and ultimately going to come away with just a slightly lower health bar for Aurora.
Couple ultimates used though. I mean, you get Layers ult, you get the Cthulhu ult as well. Benji can't afford to stay too far up because the CC chain is very potent from this Khepri. That's what Khepri does really well. It's not just save backliners' lives.
Well, Johnny just gets the taunt onto Layers. He's looking to isolate him and lock him down. The blue buff is where he turns to stay safe. And a missed auto from Johnny, 2 missed autos from Johnny, are going to allow Layers just enough space to get on out of there. Does not connect with the root from Raffer either. And so Johnny's going to be able to stay alive, or Layers is going to be able to stay alive. Still get a blue buff invade for their troubles.
Yeah, I think that the way that this pace of the game is going is still an okay thing for the Valkyries. I think that they still scale really well into the late game. The question is going to be, can they, number one, deal enough damage to the enemy front line through all the physical defense they're going to stack?
Well, there's the ult from Neath. Paul going to be able to isolate that, no problem. River's Rebuke as well as the Riptide, not quite close enough to catch Johnny off guard, but that doesn't matter. The follow-up is there. They're trying to disengage. Scared's Blessing was good, but it's not been good enough. Johnny does fall down thanks to Aurora. The bubble bounces and takes his life. Now it's Zeros looking to turn some damage around onto Paul. So far, successfully doing so, but that soul healing just seems to be too much. That Bancross Talon putting in the work, and the damage is there. Layers chases down Raffer, and that's a kill under the mid-tier 1.
Zeros has got to be careful because Cyclone Spin's on the rotation. Good backflip, but that means he's a sitting duck.
Yeah, you don't have anywhere else to go. You miss the root. You've got the sustain. The tower's doing everything it can for you, but unfortunately, it is not enough. 4 members of the Titans circle the drain, and finally, they make sure Zeros goes
very
down.
effectively.
You know, earlier you had mentioned specifically the sovereignty for Aurora being very effective with all the physical damage heavy on the Valkyries. Paul's leaned into that a little bit as well. Not only is he going to get that passive from the sovereignty, but he said, you know what, I can also get cooldown.
He loves it, man.
And benefit from it. Yeah, he gets a breastplate of Valor, and that just feels like it's so solid. Takes less damage, plus all that sustain he has. Layers, he's currently getting ulted. That did a chunk of damage from Zeros. That tier 2 tower is enough to thwart Ducky and Raffer from trying to dive and kill off the Titans jungler. They're going to be forced to run away. 2 Guardians don't have too much trouble staying alive here. It's Paul who might be in a little bit of trouble in mid lane. Johnny gets aggressive onto him. Zeros looking for the damage, but that Disapparate does too much in terms of safety. Spirit Arrow just off the mark. And unfortunately for him, he's not going to be able to lock him down. No roots, no stuns, nothing to fight with. And now Zeros actually might be too far forward.
Yeah, this is, you see the little combo there. Is Aurora going to try and set up this chase, but it's Johnny who's going to be the one in trouble.
Yeah, isolated, left alone. Pulled right back into it thanks to Layers. Served up on a silver platter. And while you might not have gotten the mid, you got the jungler, which honestly feels like it's a little bit better. Blink was down for Johnny as well. And now they can start invading. Red buff taken away. Aurora's chasing. It's a Riptide onto Zeros as well. The return damage from the Valkyries just isn't enough.
Not quite yet. I mean, Zero's just not strong enough in his build. Is Cyclone looking for Emil on this left-hand side.
And it looks like it should be a good 1v1 Bifrost. The Crystal just barely gets him out of there. Cyclone takes a couple of hits in the process. Unfortunately for Emil, he wants to get aggressive. He sees Cyclone's low. 1 hit is all it takes. And Layers was right there waiting with the ult. Throws it to the mid-tier 2. Kills off the Hunter.
Now Layers doing what Layers has done throughout his whole career when Susano was Typhoon. Good. Your potential to make plays and CC people for a long duration is really, really difficult to handle.
Well, right now, that CC has been very detrimental, and it's much more when you look towards specifically Zeros. Level 13 as of right now hasn't picked up a second relic just yet. He's still trying to finish off stacking that Transcendence. Unfortunately, I see where Aurora is walking right now alongside Layers. They're trying to go for potentially a red buff invade, but also maybe just a good collapse. They've got Raffer, Emil, Johnny, and Zeros right here. Now, Spirit Arrow getting charged up, looking to try and help out. And that's going to be a great res from Raffer to make sure Emil stays alive. And now Johnny is left between 3. There's a good River's Rebuke to wall them off and isolate them and funnel them right into Benji's waiting lap. The ult comes through from the Cthulhu. The autos are going to connect, and the damage is there. Paul kills Johnny, and now they're continuing their chase under the tier 2 tower.
Layers waiting for his opportunity, but actually took a tower shot, so couldn't blink in. But Cyclone Spin still has ult, and he's coming around the back.
Yeah, right immediately onto Zeros. Finds the damage, but a good root from Zeros keeps him alive just a little bit longer. Not enough to save his life, and the same thing can be said for Raffer, taken down shortly thereafter. The good Bifrost Crystal gets Emil out of there one more time. Ducky hiding under the Phoenix as of this point. And the Valkyries forced to fall back. What was a very good early game lead, 15.5 minutes in, now is 11 kills to 2 in favor of the Titans. 6,000 gold and then some because they just pick up a tier 2 tower.
So this composition for the Valkyries is really good if you can get to late game even.
When we realized who he was, we were like, oh, I probably could, because I was still a student. I was like, dude, I do not want them to find me in here.
Right.
Like, but then he's like, nah, it's cool. I used to play here. And that's when like it shifted in. I was like, oh, your name's CJ, and you used to play here? Like, wait a minute.
He was a sick player.
He was, yeah, he was real good. But I did get out of there. He stayed. I don't know for
Understandably
how
so.
long. Titans get the Fire Giant here, 19 minutes in. Now they're getting aggressive onto Ducky, finding no issues locking down the Terra. It felt like it should have taken a little bit longer than that. The Ducky just gets burned down incredibly fast. And that is exactly what's happening to this Tier 2 as well, with Paul making up for the lack of otherwise hunters on this team. They get the Tier 2, and looks like the Valkyries are not going to defend this right-hand Phoenix. Instead, they're going to try and find pressure elsewhere. Left-hand Phoenix was in a little bit of trouble, but that is not going to be the case this time around. They're all trying to find back because this Titan is in trouble. Raffer is going to have to ult himself, stays alive with the Scarab's Blessing, but is that going to be enough to stop the Titan from going down? So far, the answer seems to be like, no, it's half health and falling fast. The rest of the Valkyries unable to do anything, and the Titans take game number 1.
Feels pretty good for a Susano at any point of this one. I mean, you see it right there. You pull the knee, you put the 3 on her. She's going to backflip because Zeros is deathly afraid, and you just teleport in and finish off the kill. Rinse, repeat, and that should spell how every single engagement goes for the Tartarus Titans. And the Valhalla Valkyries get off to a good start, I guess, as you highlight. It was like 20 seconds in, Zeros just kind of does it to Paul. Seems like Paul legitimately wasn't touching his keyboard really at that point of the game, and afterward, I think the Valkyries got like 1 more kill, and the Tartarus Titans got like a lot more kills, objectives, and Titans.
Yeah, I mean, we had barely made it back to the break room, out of the studio set we're currently in. We walk out the door, turn the corner down the hallway, and before we can get there, first blood happens. But then from that point on, it's just all Tartarus Titans control. I mean, 6-0 for Aurora, who got Yemoja, and I think it's criminal the fact he was able to pick up Yemoja. Paul, doesn't matter what he played. I'm not going to say that Paul wasn't an impact for this team. I mean, he went 3-1-7. But when Layers is able to just walk across the map as he pleases on the Susano, pick up any god, he could literally just look at any one of these players and go, yeah, we're killing them. Pull them in, and, well, they're going to get a kill. Multiple Tier 1 tower dives. Zeros had absolutely no safety on this Neath. He was able to put up top damage for his team, but I guess when everybody's diving you consistently, you have a lot of opportunities to throw some damage back there. Game number 2 with these picks and bans. I think one of the things, if you're going to fight Weird with Weird, maybe you take some of the top picks away. Yemoja seemed to be a really big thorn in their side. The sustain became a massive problem when you come towards the late game. And then if you can't deal with the sustain from Moja, how are you going to deal with the tankiness of the Cthulhu? That seemed to be another big problem, is trying to chop down that solo laner who I don't think Benji ever had a single moment during that game where he was ever really worried.
No, Benji was sitting just fine. 0 deaths for him, only 2 deaths for the Tartarus Titans. Those land onto Layers and Paul, respectively, both of which were getting very involved at every facet of the game. I was actually watching a fight between Zeros and Paul. Paul was inside of his Tier 1 tower at about 10% HP, and he refused to walk away from a 100% HP Neath. Paul was playing with complete abandon inside of that game, and it is reflected as he had 50% of the deaths for his squad. Bans starting to roll their way through. Hell, Uller, and Odin removed by the Valkyries. Tartarus Titans got their eyes on a couple of comfort picks. It's going to be Geb, Loki, and Artio taken off the table here. So a lot of standard stuff, a lot of parity from what we've seen in Game 1, but what does that leave available to either of these teams? The exact same things. A lot of high-priority mid laners, Raijin and Tiamat come to mind. Yemoja, Khepri still out there as well, and a couple of junglers could come through, but the Valkyries in this position in Game 1 went for the Khepri last time around. We'll see if they like that strategy here.
And that's a difficult choice because Aurora is one of the players who really brought this Khepri back in the meta, and it's one of the things of, do you take the Emoji for yourself, but then you give up the Khepri over to Aurora? Well, that's not a fun one. Do you want to give up, take the Khepri for yourself and then leave the Emoji up for Aurora? Well, it didn't work out super well in game number 1. Maybe one difference that they can make and have made here is picking up a priority mid laner in the Tiamat as a first pick, and now that gives some option over to the Titans as what do they want to grab for their mid lane, what do they want to grab between those 2 top supports, and it will be Yemoja going to be going over for Aurora once more.
So that does open up the door for the Valkyries to go ahead and take Khepri for themselves. So picking Tiamat, a great decision here, as they are allowed to go towards that priority pick from Game 1 either way. And this set lock-in, I don't think anyone's getting tricked here. Probably going the way of Cycle and Spin inside of the duo lane yet again. Maybe not so happy with his slower-paced game of Game 1 and wants to get that high-octane style rolling here in Game 2. So the Tartarus Titans walk away with a very high-pressure duo lane from their top 2 picks. Yemoja has great wave clear in her own right, set, decent poke, great engage, and great all-in potential once he does find those opportunities. Valkyries, though, hovering a Ho Yi this high up in the draft, it's not exactly a priority hunter pick. It's not exactly a super contested pick, but if you are trying to find something a little bit earlier on, this does have decent flex potential for just the Valkyries. Just the Valkyries have flex potential here in that it could go into mid, it could go into duo, but it certainly is going to the Valkyries.
I swear we saw a mid laner in SPL play, another SPL player do this. I want to say it was Venenu?
You know, you said it, and my mind went to Ven, but I can't remember.
I want to say it was Venenu who played this mid. And it's only seen one game so far where there's been success for this Hou Yi out of the 6 that he's been played, so not the most successful god out of the hunter role or mid role, whichever one you want to throw him towards. But that does leave the Khepri back open for the Valks to take it and the Hou Yi. So most likely their duo lane rounded out, as we did see Emil pilot the Hou Yi last week. It's going to be a Yamoja set Soul, so the exact same 3 as game number 1 for the Tartarus Titans, and we're not seeing any of the same bans from the Valkyries just yet. It'll be a Serket and a Wheelish. Love to see the Susano ban if they decide to run with a similar comp, and probably don't want to give that same comp over to the Tartarus Titans. They're going to say no Erlong Shen and put Johnny in an interesting spot and make him kind of pick something completely different here. So we'll see if the Valkyries decide to ban the Susano, and instead they will not. They will take the Daji off the table.
Yeah, well, I'm expecting to see maybe like a Thor from Layers. The Tartarus Titans seem to be having a little bit of fun with their draft here as Ares now being hovered, and if Ares does get locked in, I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud on the air to a couple thousand people, but could go into the jungle.
Good.
Has some flex potential there. Some of the Flames changes at the tail end of Season 7 means that he can clear out waves a little bit more easily, but a god that is more suited to the jungle is going to get locked in. Thanatos, the Hand of Death for the Tartarus Titans, going to be piloted by their expert jungler. And, well, I've got great expectations for it, considering how quickly the Tartarus Titans were able to turn around that early game lead that the Valkyries had in the last one. So what is the response on the other end? I want to see early game aggression, man. The Valkyries got ran over after the 1 minute mark. So let's see something and then kind of hang in there for a little bit.
Looking at a Raven, that will be locked in to give something very aggressive for Johnny. You can try and start making some strides outside of just the jungle itself. A lot of high early damage, a lot of good chase potential. Going up against a Soul or a Set, you're going to need some good chase. Even at Thanatos, you're going to need some kind of lockdown. And when we talk about lockdown, what's a great Soul laner to do so? Tyr, going over the way of Ducky in the solo lane. He's shown some really strong success with this god. Back in phase number 2, there was a couple of really good plays. I want to say there was one specifically against the Dragons where he's able to get multiple multi-man pushes to save his mid laner. It wasn't enough at the end of the day, but if there's not too many players left in the SPL who are really going over towards this Tyr. Ducky, really one of the few.
No, yeah, Ducky's one of the only hangovers. I mean, as far as this season is concerned, I'd say that Julio comes to mind as one of the premier tier players. But now Ducky going to try and carry on that mantle. Raven is exactly what I was asking for out of the jungle. A great early game presence, has great scaling now that the mace tree is looking a lot better as well. Decent survivability if you're worried about the hovering death. Overhead kick, largely going to be able to make you avoid that one, as it is essentially like a Beads Aegis built into your kit that also applies damage. But that Ares will eventually get locked in. Shades of Deathwalker here, probably headed for the soul lane.
Yeah, there is some potential for it. A lot of flexibility with this god, mostly, almost exclusively seen in the solo lane. We have seen some shades of it, as you highlighted, via Deathwalker and solo lane.
All the time about Deathwalker Ares solo, right? That's all everyone wants to talk about when it comes to Ares solo. But it was Anatoly who did it first, okay? That's all I'm saying. It's the Toli Ares solo, and then Deathwalker did it second and better, for the record. But still, these are the matchups where we've seen it. I believe it was against Tyr for Deathwalker and for Anatoly when we saw it. And look, I mean, if there's a time to experiment, get some real opportunities to get some live testing, I'd say this is a fair one to do it.
And, well, so far, it seems to be going pretty well on the side of the Valkyries. And despite the fact that they have some counter matchups elsewhere on the map, it definitely seems like they're going to have some powerhouses existent for them. It's just the question of whether or not they're going to be able to make them work. Already the damage seems to be good. Johnny just trying to get out of there. That's revenge for last time. It might have been Zeros who got the first blood. Paul scooping it up this time to make sure Johnny stays a little slower. Now Layers looking to potentially lock down this Tiamat. A little bit of damage goes a long way. The silence is just a little too late. And Layers is going to have to fall back.
Just go farm his jungle so that at least Zeros is getting solo farm in mid. He'll lose both mid camps, but I think you were going to anyways.
And at this rate, now you've got an aggressive jungler who has a level lead. I just saw Layers go and clear out the back camps. Last time, it was a little too aggressive because of the early lead the Valkyries have been able to pick up. This time, That's just playing Thanatos, baby. He's getting aggressive. He's even going for a speed buff as of right now.
Whoa!
Once it respawns, but it's Imolito who's going to get aggressive under the tier 1 tower, and they're going to have some help. Johnny's lurking in the jungle. Roar's half health. He gets the kill. Maybe leaping too far for it, but he walks out none worse for it.
No, that's a great play by Imolito. Just knows that Cyclone has to respect it, and if Cyclone doesn't use the beads, and I don't really blame Cyclone in that instance, because what absolute psycho is going to jump into my tier 1 tower at 2 minutes and be able to get this kill? But Imolito knew his damage well, went in there and get the knock-up, guarantee the follow-up auto, and then just use the beads on the way out. Been very, very difficult now for this set to try and come back a little bit in this lane, because Imolito is in a really good spot to try and bully out this assassin in the duo lane.
I like the aggression so far. And like you said, if you're going to bully out an assassin, you got to do it fast and soon. Level 4 already for Imolito, so he'll be the first to tick over to 5. Speed buff was stolen away, as mentioned before. And so the poke seems to be going in favor of the Valkyries, while everything else seems to be starting up in favor of the Titans. Already sitting just under 1,000 gold ahead. And it's slowed down a little bit from the junglers, with one successful gank already having happened. I guess it wasn't even a gank, just a good fight for Layers and Paul. Makes things a little more interesting. I gotta keep my eyes on this engage right here. There's the Suns that get dropped down onto Aurora's taking a lot of damage. There's the Root as well. And with the mark of the Golden Crow, it's going to be a simple stun off the wall and a couple of shots from Immel. And that's going to be able to find the kill. But Hovering Death, Layers lurking in the sky and comes crashing down, gets the stun, gets the Death Scythe, and now the chase is on. Raffer has no mana to work with, maybe enough to get a dash here soon, but they're getting chased. The damage is there. 2 assassins is too much to handle, and Johnny just has to watch in the jungle.
Yeah, that's just not enough to come in and help. I think Johnny makes the right decision by ditching the team there. Feeling good.
Yeah, that's a good point. She can just keep it.
Yeah, sometimes he's got to hold the
That's
L.
a good share. It fits her better too. Like her, I don't like. She's just small, so it's like a big chair for her. Either way, right now Layers once again going into the Hovering Death. I think I know where he's going this time around. Emil's not going to get far. The execute comes crashing down, and the Suns were used as well. So a clean kill onto the Hunter, 4-2. 7 minutes into the game, and the Titans are starting to push themselves up to a 2,500 gold
Starts
lead.
to get a lead, starts to be able to put things at his pace. It becomes extremely difficult to play against because he's just got such a long-range teleport. If he hits you with that skewer, slows you a little bit, starts walking at you, forces the dive bomb, and then he just sandstorm teleports after you, you're kind of out of offense.
What a good two-man stun from Aurora. Just stops the aggression from the Valkyries duo lane, keeps himself alive, and is able to walk back to, well, what I thought was going to be the safety of Cyclones, but it seems like Aurora has a different thought in mind, wanted to go for the purple, just off the mark with the ricochets from Imolito, but the damage still seems to be there. Good body blocks from Raffer. Stop a little bit of the Riptides, but not enough to lock down Aurora. He's going to be able to walk out of there just fine. Johnny's looking to get aggressive. You've got a Tiamat Minotaur running around in the jungle. Not going to be able to find anything, so everything fizzles out.
Okay, man. I gave Paul the benefit of the doubt last game because it was it was a 3 physical comp, but double Hunter plus an Assassin, 2 Guardians. My man's still going Breastplate, even when there's a traditional mage in the mid lane. He can't help himself.
He knows who he's more worried about. Aurora needs to be worried. They have been chasing him down consistently so far, and that's going to be a good kill onto him. But over on the other side of the map, Layers is able to help take down and kill off Ducky, using that Hovering Death one last time for a good gank. So it makes sure that he's able to at least trade 1-for-1 support for Solar. Paul looking to make that even more favorable. One more hit is all they need, and he's going to be able to find it with some big damage from the mannequins. And now it's Zeros, who seems to be biting off more than he can chew, getting aggressive, good damage onto Paul, but Layers is back, and Layers is looking for more. Layers takes down Zeros, and it's now 7-3, but Cyclone spins incredibly though. Suns dropped from Imolito, and he is trying to run away, but he has to go through the tier 1 tower. Cyclone's chasing, Raffer's there, and Cyclone has no help to work with. But guess who? It's Layers one more time. All you need is a Death Scythe. Imolito doing good jukes, but not good enough. Finally, the kill comes out. The Titans pick up another.
Smart play from Imolito. Knows that Layers has got to choose one in that instance, and he makes the right choice. You go for the Hunter instead of the support every single time, but runs away from Raffer, jukes back towards the enemy tower, make sure that Layers can't instantly cascade his death into a kill on Raffer. But 6-0-1 for Layers, who's really just putting on a show, was on the Susano, and now again on the Thanatos.
This is what I was worried about for the Valkyries, and maybe they should have been worried about a little bit more as well. Gold Fury started up by the Titans. Raffer tried to contest it. Raffer lost his life for it overall. I think every single one of the Valkyries died in that extended engagement. Now with Raffer going down, because it started with Ducky Tartarus Titans, you'll never guess who's piloting a lot of them. 7-0-1. Layers on Thanatos right now is the bane of the Valhalla Valkyries.
Yeah, it's just been easy for him so far. Ooh, Ricochet nearly landed.
That would have been hot
there from Emilito. That was awfully close.
Oh, hey, Layers maybe trying to get his first death. Does make it up into the hovering death. And now they're standing just close enough. He's got backup. He is going to back off here. Thanatos not that risky. And there's going to be the chains, the pull in from Benji. Johnny chained down. And he's not going to be able to escape from that one. Another kill. Solo as a counter matchup to the tier. You're able to pick up this set twice, who had a much better, I say, lane phase in game 1 so far than here in game 2. But hasn't necessarily been suffering either. Cyclone's got a 1-level lead. Realistically, we saw where that power comes from. It is the ganks that he was providing for his team, looping around those tier 2 towers, tier 1 towers, and just catching the backline of the Valkyries off guard. Speaking of getting caught off guard, I don't think Ducky expected all 3 of these players to show up. Pyromancer, tier 1 tower, kill onto the solo laner. You get all 3 if you're the Tartarus Titans, push your lead up to about 7,000 gold.
Yeah, I think Ducky's expression there in the player cam tells the story. Just a frustrating set of circumstances for him in the solo lane. Gets hard counter matchup. No ganks from Johnny. I mean, you just can't. He fell behind early, Johnny in the jungle, so I understand his decision to focus more on farm than ganking, but you just can't let this airy solo get away for free. I mean,
forfeit, Ducky. You got to get out of there. And it seems like he seems to recognize this as well. Layers is in the left side jungle. Right now hovering around where the Oracle Harpies could be, but he's going to be going up in the sky and looking for the ganks. Sun's dropped by Emilito, but now Emilito looking to get dropped by the rest of the Titans that are coming in here. 2 assassins, again, too much for him. And that's going to be 1 clean kill. Scarab's Blessing used for Raffer, but only delaying the inevitable here. 1 more hit is all you need, but no, the peel is actually good. Johnny is able to help pull this away. Layers goes a different route, though, and the ult does not connect. We have the good rotation from Zeros, but it's not enough to help them out. Johnny goes down, Raffer goes down, and now this mid laner is stuck between 5 members of the Titans. They are going to collapse in and make him wish he had never been there, as tier 1 is shortly thereafter going to fall.
Yeah, we're getting close to the 10,000 gold lead at 15 minutes. I mean, this is what's the fastest game this season, Gore? You got that off the top of the dome?
18 minutes, 20 seconds, I think, somewhere around there.
Okay. We got a chance to beat that one.
They could do it right here. I mean, no Fire Giant buff slows things down, but at least Phoenix.
There is only 1 tier 2 left. I mean, the Titan isn't going to be super tanky here.
They're getting aggressive onto the left side. Phoenix taking a little longer, I think, than they would like it to. Paul finally getting some autos in there, and that seems to be what they need. Good pull back from Benji, grabs Immel, and they burn him. River's Rebuke is thrown up, and it's going to cause a little bit of a delay. I think Aurora was hoping to catch somebody, or maybe they just didn't anticipate how quickly they were going to kill off Emilito. They get the left side Phoenix, and they back off. Probably not beating that one.
No.
And I know for a fact, so I had to ask this one very specifically, because the shortest game in Smite history is 2 minutes,
right.
And that is
no one
depressing.
counts it.
No one's going to be able to beat that.
No.
And then, of course, there were a lot of, like, back in the day when we used to allow surrenders, 10-minute surrenders that would happen, and that's just no fun for anybody. Speaking of no fun for anybody, Ducky needs to get out of here, and Ducky needs to get out of here quickly, as he is isolated, uses his ult to try and disengage, turns around, good 2-man Fearless, and that's actually a great way to peel for Ducky. Unfortunately, it is still him versus 4, and that is not going to be enough to get him out of there. They burned down the solo laner, now they're going to burn down the Fire Giant. Yeah. While I have the attention of it, the shortest non-surrender that we have on record was 16 minutes 31 seconds of the fastest Titan.
Which season was that?
Let's see. I have it written down. Dignitas versus Lion Guard in Season 4.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, Lion Guard struggled a little bit, I'd say.
Especially if they have the quickest Titan kill at 16.5 minutes.
Yeah. They lost that game, right? Or did they win?
Yes, I think Dignitas had to have won that.
I was going to say, I'd assume so, yes. Oh, nice bounce.
Wow, yeah, really good bounce.
Okay,
Unfortunate
understood.
that everything
right?
after afterward did not go the way
Oh, they got it in
Hey,
the
by the
bag.
way, they get the right side Phoenix as well. And now they're just going to go ahead and run into the Titan room. Layers is distracting Johnny all the while. Ducky trying to come in. Good Fearless is keeping them going a little bit longer. But this is just all for naught. The Valkyries do their best to fight back, but the Titans are overwhelmingly in the lead.
In the quickest fashion we've seen here in the SPL this year.
I mean, every single time that Layers walked up to any individual, they were dead. There was no hesitation, there was no delay. It's Layers shows up, Scythe auto dead. And a lot of that comes to the thanks of the Hydra that he picked up, the Hydra's Lament 3rd pick that he grabbed in his build, so he could just do that. Death, Scythe auto dead. Even in fights like that where you're seeing carries pulled in by a single person, it's just dead. That's all it is. It's Layers shows up, and whoever's near is not going to be there anymore.
Yeah, 14.5 KDA with 17,000 damage in just over 18 minutes. Feels pretty good, I'd say. Maybe a little bit of Layers diff inside of this one. Johnny as well, falling down so early inside of this game. If you can remember back to the desk, and I don't see why you wouldn't be able to remember back to that second game desk, because it was only just about 19 minutes ago. I said that if Johnny does not hit the ground running, the Valkyries likely will not hit the ground running, and, well, that's kind of reflected here a little bit. One silver lining, Emilito looked pretty good on the Hou Yi, though.
Yeah, got 3 kills early on, but those were almost, I was going to say almost the only kills they got. They did get 1 for Ducky and 1 for Johnny in the middle of a larger skirmish, kind of towards the mid-game, but Emil was really the only one who was able to find decent success for the Valkyries here, and that's where a lot of successes come from the Valkyries in their last available for you guys today. Here in the SPL, we've got the Olympus Bolts and the Camelot Kings. That's going to be our second match of the day now that we've wrapped up our 2-0 with the Titans and the Valhalla Valkyries. So with the win for the Tartarus Titans, they are done for the weekend. The Valhalla Valkyries, they still have one more set later on. Let's take a look at the standings and see where the Titans are able to move around because of that win. They'll be sitting at 3-1, so naturally they'll have more games than the rest of the teams right below them, so they move up to the 2nd seed. But with this next one is where we could see some shakeups in there between the Bolts and the Kings, both at 2-1. One of these is going to fall and be the actual 5th seed, and the other one could rise up to kind of tie the Tartarus Titans up here for 2nd seed.